Recording in progress.
I call to order this August 26th meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Sims. Here. Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderwoman Harder. Alderman Plushka.
Here. Thank you. Thanks very much. The next item on our agenda is the approval of that agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? By acclamation, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The agenda will stand as approved. Our third item are citizen comments. Anybody in the audience or anybody online who wishes to address this committee on any issue of public safety, you'll be given up to 3 minutes. Please identify yourself by your name and address. This is not a dialogue back and forth between the committee and anybody who wants to make a comment, but you're free to make that comment for up to 3 minutes. Close public comment, or citizen comment, excuse me, and turn to the report. Oh. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Kim Gardner.
Kim, we can hear you, absolutely.
Great, thanks. I'm not too familiar with using Zoom. I appreciate that. I was wondering, since this is a rather important topic for a lot of people, I'm not sure that the message had gotten out that this topic was being covered at this particular meeting, at least on the city website. There's no mention of what the agenda is. Do you know if the word had gotten out so that we could get better participation in this topic?
Kim, I'm going to go back on the rule I just stated a minute ago, and I'm going to give you an explanation. First of all, this is not a meeting about license reading technology. Oh, can you mute yourself just for a second?
Sure.
Thank you.
If I can figure out how to mute.
There you go. Okay. This is not a meeting with regard to license reading technology. There is going to be some discussion, I think, within one of our departmental reports as to the status of our use of license reading technology. But this is not an open forum, nor is this a committee that has been set up tonight to address that question at all. So that's why you didn't hear about any of it, because it's not part of the agenda. It is going to be discussed by one of our department heads, but not as a topic of forum conversation. And you can find our agenda on our website, can you not? Thank you. And it's published at least 24 hours, if not 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
48 hours.
Okay.
It does note that.
And if
they're
you,
gonna
and Kim, you can unmute yourself, and if you have additional comments you'd wish to make at this time, you can certainly do that, but I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I appreciate that. I guess my initial comment is that I had submitted a letter to the members of the board and to the mayor. I did get one board member to respond who had said that this topic was being brought up in tonight's meeting. I'm currently out of town, otherwise I would have attended, but that's why there was a misunderstanding. I thought that this was the purpose of the meeting.
No, it's not the purpose of the meeting, nor is it a topic for discussion, but she was correct when she said that it is going to be discussed in the meeting, but as our department head is going to discuss it, that's the extent of the discussion. Do you have anything else to add?
No, just to say that I did submit a letter with some comments and questions that I would be hopeful might be passed along to the right people, and that maybe we can have further discussions about this topic, because I know there are several people that have been quite concerned. So it may be something that warrants more than just commentary from the chief, and should be brought to more of a general discussion with the citizens of Brentwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, at this time I will close citizen comments and move on to reports of the committee. As chairman, I do not have a report. Alderwoman Sims. No report. Thank you. Alderman Gould.
No report.
Thank you. Alderwoman Harder.
No report.
Thank you. Turn to our city administrator's report. Do we have a city administrator's report?
Not tonight.
We do not. Then we'll turn to our department reports, and first up is our police department. Chief, good evening.
Good evening. Test. By the agenda, the first thing I was going to speak to is our crime report, basically covering both July and then the first part of August. As you look at the crime and the incidents that have occurred in that period of time, despite the fact that we're in the heat of summer and all the schools were out during this period of time, crime continues to be extremely low comparatively in the city of Brentwood with prior years. We continue to see some challenges in our retail area, especially with fraud cases that pop up on a regular basis. But we, as I'll talk to in a minute, particularly our car-related crime has shown a significant decrease this year again. So there was one case, perhaps of note, from Planet Fitness. We see that location several times being victimized, where people were putting stuff in their lockers and somebody steals their wallet, and next thing you know, they're doing a fraud at one of our local stores. So we had another one during this reporting period. This one was a little different in that investigators were able to identify another gym member who took the wallet. So typically this is an invader from outside who's not necessarily a member, but that case has been solved as well. On the agenda for this evening, we wanted to mention that we are currently down 2 in staffing in the police department. We have testing going on right now for 3 candidates, and as that progresses, we'll let you know how they did in their testing process and what our recommendations will be for hire. I would like to speak to your request, Mr. Plufka, regarding technology in the city of Brentwood for the police department, how it helps us solve crime, and what are the recent years of crime showing. And I would assume, meaning, is there a correlation between the technology that we use and a reduction potentially in crime? So, generally speaking, I would tell you that it's just tough to be a bad guy in this day, in this world. Technology's everywhere. Video cameras are on many streets, especially when you get into the city of St. Louis. They're literally on almost every corner. There are thousands of these flock cameras in the community in St. Louis and nationally, all of which interact and talk to each other. So we are able to get immediate alerts on a lot of crime that we never had an idea of prior. You look at any store that you go into, any bank that you go into, we all know we're on video. So the other factor is cell phones. Cell phone dumps have been quite productive. So when you look at the whole loop of technology to an investigator in law enforcement, and they start connecting these technology dots, their job as investigators becomes extremely successful because of it. And these flock cameras are a piece of that puzzle that we'll speak to here tonight. So when you look at what other factors, and I've spoken to this before in these meetings, but some of the other factors along with the technology that have affected crime, especially in 24 and 2025 and into 26, there's a lot of other factors. Strong police patrols here in Brentwood, and like many police departments nationally and in the St. Louis area, we've adjusted our pursuit policy, especially at night. So prosecutors are issuing more warrants now, especially in the city of St. Louis, which is kind of the hot box for a lot of the crime that we see. Juvenile courts have made adjustments. And while that process isn't perfect either, it's better than it was a couple years ago. The point system's still being used, but there's more offenders that are being held. And it's, in my opinion, a definite deterrent to juvenile crime and their participation in it. A couple other things that have come along the pipe in the last couple of years. The Valentine's Law came into effect and was passed in the Missouri legislature. That's a felony fleeing law, and it carries a minimum mandatory sentencing for people that flee from law enforcement. It was modeled after a St. Louis County police officer who was killed in the line of duty in a pursuit. The Valentine's Law gives some power to the felony fleeing piece. So that's a felony to flee from the police now under that Valentine's law, and it comes with a sentence mandate to the judges. Another thing that's happened in the last couple of years in Jeff City is we mirrored the Illinois law and makes going into someone's car a burglary. Before it was a minor petty theft offense, and it was difficult to get any kind of meaningful jail time or punishment from somebody that might have broken into 30 cars in a night. Here, each count is listed now as a burglary. So it allows for better sentencing, at least from our perspective, and charging processes with these guys that are doing this kind of crime. So when you look at, to speak specifically towards FLOC and how it helps law enforcement, there's a couple things that I think are worth mentioning. So we get immediate alerts from FLOC, and I mean immediate, right on the terminals in the police cars. If the officers have FLOC turned on and a car goes by that, for example, is a stolen car, within seconds, they get the notification, and then they can verify whether or not the car is still actively listed as a stolen vehicle. So it becomes, in real time, an opportunity to prevent whatever those people are going to do in that stolen car. And we have seen over the years that our car crime is directly related to these guys in stolen cars. So that becomes a huge benefit. When you look at it from an investigative perspective, our detectives, there aren't many cases that our detectives investigate that they don't use FLOC in some capacity to try and help them. If you get a fraud at Target, they're going to probably look at the FLOC cameras up on Eager and around the parking lots to try and identify the vehicle these people are in. If we get a robbery, and thankfully we get very few, we've only had one this year, that's a great way for them to be able to look at the area and be able to determine if there's a vehicle involved, and be able to source their investigation using these other technology pieces and witnesses and be able to solve their crimes using these cameras. One of the distinguishing things about FLOC, as opposed to just a regular LPR camera, just so that you know, is that you can enter, say you have a white Cadillac that's involved in a crime, you can put that into the FLOC system and search historically for that vehicle. It becomes a huge investigative advantage when you start looking at, hey, who was in the area for on a particular evening prior to a crime occurring or shortly thereafter. That kind of investigative tool is not there for a traditional LPR, which simply is reading license plates and spitting back to the police if something's in the system is wanted. This becomes more of an investigative tool for the officers that are doing that. All of that creates leads and are typically supplemented with all this additional cell phone stuff that we talked about and other cameras that the detectives are able to use. Just to give you a perspective on this, for 3 years now, the FLOC cameras have a direct link to at least, and this is a little harder for us to identify, but we've identified 1/3 of the cases that we investigate are helped solved by our FLOC cameras. That's a significant number. These cameras have become almost a go-to right out of the box for the investigators. So many of the crimes that we see they're aided in the solving of the crime through the cameras. Just to give you a little sprinkle of FLOC, just in July and August, which we're reporting on to you this evening at the public safety meeting, there were 4 cases, and there were others, but here's 4 of them that we picked out just from this few weeks. On July 1st, there was a fraud of an elderly woman who gave contractors $5,000, and then they fled Home Depot. I think you guys are aware of that case. What you may not know is that our officers entered that vehicle into the FLOC system, and a few hours later, St. Louis County Police found the truck. And they had a pursuit and chased the guys that were in the truck. They ended up arresting those guys, and that's how that crime eventually was solved. On the 22nd of July, a hit came in on a vehicle through FLOC, and during the car stop, a sexual guy wanted for sex. He was a sexual predator. He was wanted for a sexual offense. He was identified and arrested off of a FLOC hit on the 22nd. On the 26th of July, a vehicle came through and was hit on FLOC for an unlawful use of a weapon and assault first-degree case from St. Louis City. Our officers did get behind the car and tried to stop it and had a pursuit with that vehicle. And then one more on 8/7, there was a series of thefts related to Target, some fraud cases. And our officers entered that vehicle by the plate. St. Louis City got an alert and had a pursuit with the vehicle and ended up catching 2 people in the car. That's just here the last few weeks from our flock. So these are the kind of cases potentially that they can solve for us. Just to give you a little historical perspective, because you asked for this, Alderman, 2022, when we first went online with flock, we had 88 hits in that partial year. And keep in mind that when we initially started this, we only had 5 cameras. We're at 10 at this point. So half the cameras, but we still had 88 hits. And it was dominated mostly by stolen cars and cars wanted for felony fleeing at the time and car break-in suspects. 3/4 of them were those people in that initial year that we had the cameras. In 2023, we had, in a full year of use of the system, we had 201 hits, 52 felony wanteds popped up in Brentwood on flock of vehicles traveling through the area of somebody in the car wanted for a felony, and 91 stolen cars came through this town. That's a lot of stolen cars in 2 square miles. In 2024, we had 199 flock hits with 115 felony wanteds on someone related to the plate on the car, and 62 stolen cars. So what you're going to hear in the last 3 years, 24, 25, and 26, is a significant reduction as these cameras and the other technology really got root, and a lot of other cities went online with these cameras. In 2025, we had 123 hits, 83 of them were felony wanteds, and only 30 stolen cars. That's less than half of the year before that popped for our officers. Now, keep in mind, these flock hits are based on the officers' initiative, getting in their cars and saying they want to interact with the flock, which most of them do, and they set parameters. You know, if they set it, notify me every time there's a bench warrant that goes by, the thing would ding all night long. So they usually set the camera restrictions to felonies. That's typical of what they do. So, but in 2025, we had 123 hits and only 30 stolen car hits, so it was less than 50%. 2026 has been an even more remarkable downward trend. Only 32 felony wanteds have come across this year through a half a year's worth of flock hits. And out of the flock hits this year, only 5 are stolen cars. 5 is minuscule compared to what the numbers you just heard. So we look. You asked that we look not only at flock indicators, but what does the crime look like in those few years as well? So in 2021, just to break that down for you, in 2021, we had 130 car break-ins in the city of Brentwood. That includes thefts. So anything stolen from an auto, and of course the ones we were most worried about were the ones that they're going into the car late at night while standing in a driveway armed. And we saw a lot of those. Brentwood saw a lot of those in 2016, 17. Before I got here, this was a problem, a big problem. So, and that continued through these years. But in 2021, that was the number, 33 stolen cars and 130 thefts and car break-in kind of crime in the city of Brentwood. In 2022, we were at 114 car break-ins and thefts and 51 stolen cars. So the stolen autos in 22, if you remember, Kias and Hyundais were being stolen by the dozens every day. So I think that was driven, some of that was driven by our Hyundais and Kias that were stolen in Brentwood. In 2023, things really started to change. We only had 37 stolen autos in that year in 2023. In 2024, we were now up to double the cameras. We were now up to 10 flock cameras. And it was about this time that we changed our policies as well. And all during this time, the city of Brentwood had details out with our police department in different ways, at night in particular, looking for guys breaking in cars, stolen cars, all of those kind of proactive details that we were doing during that year as well. So we were up to 10 cameras and down to 39 vehicle-related break-ins and thefts. Just to give you the 2021 number one more time, that was 130. In 2024, we're down to 39 and 23 stolen autos. In 2025, stolen autos were 28, so it went up a couple ticks, but not much. And now 2026, we're at 19 thefts and car break-ins compared to that 130 in 2021. Now, it's half the year, so we're on a pace for about 40, which would be the low mark for my time with you guys by far. Also, keep in mind, these include things like license plate tabs stolen off your car. That's included in that car thefts from a vehicle. It may not be a window smashing. It could be something simple or something less volatile. It could be something that they took off a parking lot of our, a store, and they took your parking tabs. So just to give a little perspective on that, the 19 car-related crimes we've had this year, 6 of them were license plate tab thefts. So like all numbers, you have to really dig into this stuff and figure it out. So our traditional thefts from a vehicle are 13 this year. That's extremely low, especially when you consider we're in the dead of summer when it's usually the worst. I just reported to you that we almost had no vehicle-related crime in July. It's Major Simpson sitting here, and he's still shaking his head about that one. He doesn't understand it. So, again, there's a lot of factors here. There's another interesting thing about our hits off the flock cameras. So we broke them down. We asked Tom Bottini to break these flock hits down because I wanted to know about the night watch. What effect does the flock hits at night have on that nighttime crime? And you guys are probably sick of hearing me say that by far is, to me, was the most worrisome crime in Brentwood since I got here. I think it's the potential for a citizen getting hurt, a police officer getting hurt.
Remind us what year you arrived.
18, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I got here in March of 18. So when we looked at the flock hits at night, it was kind of an interesting perspective. In 2022, there were 38. That was the first year of partial. There were 56 in 2023 on the night watch, 41 in 24, 21 in 25, and we've only had 5 this year. And if you look at the crime reduction, it closely mirrors that significant reduction in flock hits on the night watch. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think these things are interrelated when you start looking at crime reduction. So try to be patient when I hear people say, well, crime's down all over the country, and it is. These are the factors why crime's down in our country. This is going on all over the country. This technology play, police departments changing their policies on some levels. I mean, the state of Missouri Highway Patrol just went to pit maneuvers. So their tactics are much more aggressive than they used to. There's a lot of that going on, and I think the courts are getting better as well in a lot of areas, not all of them, but a lot of areas. So these crime reductions nationally, I think there's a direct link to this presentation that I'm giving you tonight when you look at all the factors. Cameras like Flock are a piece of this, and I think it's a significant piece. If you play the technology over crime reduction and police strategy to reduce crime, it is very much a part, has to be a part of what we're doing, and it's working. And it's working nationally, not just here in Brentwood. So, do you have any questions regarding that? That's really the
No, there may be questions, everybody on the committee. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I've got about 5 questions I want to ask just about the license reading technology.
Okay.
And I don't know if, I didn't ask you about this ahead of time, and you may not know the answer just off the top of your head, but, so the first question I had is, just for people who are listening to this so they understand, has the police department promulgated rules in place for the appropriate usage of the license reading technology?
With your permission, I did not forget about your questions.
Okay.
But I was going to ask Jason
great,
to
okay.
present on that
Well,
piece
then
of
that's
it.
fine.
Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely. And does anybody else have a question at this point for the chief on anything he's covered? Okay. Okay, all right.
Jason?
Yeah, thank you.
So before we get to your question, sir, if you don't mind, I just wanted to talk about 2021 when we had a homicide at our Bonefish Grill. The victim name was Sergei Zakharev. And Adrian Simpson and Tyler Terry, who were the 2 suspects in that case, they went on a nationwide killing spree. They killed 5 people. Barbara Goodkin in U City, and then Sergei Zakharev here in Brentwood. That was the 3rd and 4th victim on their rampage. The reason we were able to identify them was we received video from the Drury Hotel. That video wasn't the best. We could not identify the entire plate. It took time. We had to provide that plate to the Real-Time Crime Center down in St. Louis City, and that took a little over 24 hours to try and fully identify that plate. After the murder of Sergei Zakharev, those two suspects left the St. Louis area and they traveled down to Memphis, Tennessee, where they killed their 5th victim, and that was on the 17th of May. And I guess my point to that is, if we would have had this technology in place at the time, I often think, would we have been able to maybe intervene in that last homicide? And I think that's a question that, in my mind, is absolutely because we would have had that image of that plate at that time. Another interesting thing is, once we got the technology, and I'll give you another for instance, the detectives just finished working a case with 2 suspects that were committing fraud at one of our major retail areas. They were able to identify a license plate and figured out that within the St. Louis region, these 2 suspects were good for about $100,000 worth of fraud. By putting that plate in our license plate reading technology system, they were able to identify that they had traveled to multiple states and identify and notify those police agencies, as well as working with the asset protection partners in those retail areas to identify future crimes, and that monetary amount is now up to about $500,000. And that, I think, speaks to what we are able to do with the technology and what we may have been able to do if we would have had the technology in 2021. So please, if you want to ask me your questions, please.
Yeah. So does the Brentwood Police Department, do they have internal rules in place for the appropriate use of the license reading technology?
We do.
So I'm assuming that it's only usable when you're dealing with a...
For law enforcement purposes or law enforcement investigations only. And that's the difference between the hit and the searches. So the chief described the hits that come to the in-car computers when a vehicle is wanted, and then the searches, about, I would say, 90% of our searches are done by our detective bureau. And some of the searches are done by some of our patrol officers. And I'll give you, for instance, recently the chief asked me to conduct audits on the flock system, and one of our sergeants had a call for a missing person. I believe it was a parental kidnapping, and he was entering that plate in the system to try and identify where that vehicle went, because the victim was also giving him a license plate and saying they're in this vehicle. So, yes.
So the auditing process, it's periodic. How frequently is it done?
So we're doing this on a monthly basis, and I will say this was kind of an undertaking when the chief asked me to do it, and we're moving towards some better protocols with this. But in the month of July, I did an audit, and there were 131 searches. So those searches could be by a plate in the incident I just described, or they could be also a vehicle description, which is what the chief described, leaving our retail areas. Maybe someone saw someone, it was just a red Ford, and that's all we had. Well, maybe they left Target and they hit one of our cameras on Eager. It's easier for us to connect the dots and narrow those things down. So when I looked at that, there was 131 searches done by 7 of our officers. And if you go line item by line item, many of those searches were repetitive for the same thing, which is, okay, did these people come back and hit us again? Where are they now? What are they doing? What are the suspects? Where are they at now? Fast forward to about, I guess, a week ago, we realized that Flock has something called their audit assistant. That audit assistant is an AI-driven tool that we have signed up for. And what it does is it flags irregular or questionable searches, search patterns, and sends a notification to command staff. So we'll sign on to the dashboard. And what I noticed is when we signed up for this, it actually went back a little bit because of the search criteria, and it had flagged several of those license plate searches that were done for the fraud investigation at Home Depot that went nationwide that I just spoke of. So with that, I think it's interesting because we get a notification as command staff, and we have to go through that line item by line item and say, was this a valid search? And then we have to sign off on that search. So it's a lot more efficient for us, and I think it's going to grab a lot more data as far as irregular searches or search patterns and things like that. And I think it's going to work real well for us.
How long is data kept by?
Our data is currently kept 30 days.
What do Brentwood police officers do to verify the accuracy of the data? Like when a ping comes in and says, hey, I've identified a car,
Sure.
I think it's wanted. Do they take any additional steps to verify whether that's accurate or not?
Sure, they'll ask the dispatcher to run that license plate through the Regis system, which gives them an initial, okay, yes, this is a valid wanted, this is a valid warrant, proceed on and stop the car.
So, and finally, my last question is, what happens to Brentwood police officers who misuse the data, or you identify through an audit or some other process?
We
that they
have,
misused the data?
sure, we have a disciplinary procedure in place, and that is taken on a case-by-case basis. I will say, so we updated our general order that covers all of these things in February and then also in August, and I think many of you were part of that discussion. And I think also our city attorney and labor law attorney were part of that discussion. And I just wanted to walk you through what happens when we change anything in our general orders. So we are CALIA accredited. We have a Power DMS system that helps us align those general orders. So every time we change something, that general order has to be updated within that system, and then it's sent out for acknowledgement, for the officers to read it, acknowledge it, and electronically sign that.
Else have any questions?
I mean, my questions were similar, and Chief laid out, I think, some really compelling evidence of how all technology, it's not just, this is, a lot of the discussion right now is about Flock, but it's a lot of technology integration, a lot of advancements in technology that's really helped reduce crime everywhere, and I think that's great. I think the concern we always have is as new technology comes online, we may identify some holes but that doesn't mean we throw everything out. You just described some adjustments you've done for the department. Have we had conversations with companies like Flock and other technology companies that we leverage to make sure that they're safeguarding and evolving as issues come up?
We have had some discussions recently with recent events here in Brentwood, obviously, and there's several other features that the chief has currently asked me to look into as far as their transparency portal. We do have the option to change our retention period to 7 days from the 30-day period, and they offer something called evidence mode with that. We're still looking into that and trying to gauge whether or not that will suit our needs, and certainly that will be something for a discussion future with all the elected officials here. So we are having those discussions. We're keeping up with those changes and adjusting as they come.
Thank you.
Does the technology, it only takes a picture, it's the license plate, right?
It is not facial recognition. It does not take pictures of people in vehicles. It takes a snapshot of the rear of the vehicle.
And this is on a public street or near is that where we have them set up? I mean, this isn't...
That's correct. We have, the city owns 10 Flock cameras, and then we have some privately owned cameras in the city as well. Dearborg's has them on their parking lot, Hanley Station has them in their parking lot, and then we have a private neighborhood that has some.
So we keep as it stands, we keep the information for 30 days, is that right?
30 days.
And then it gets deleted, or it
Off
goes
the cloud, yes.
Okay, off the cloud. Do we sell that information to anybody?
No, this is, all of the data is owned by the city. There's city-owned cameras. The data is owned by the city, and we do not sell that information.
I think I saw this on a comment on Facebook, so bear with me. Do we share that information with ICE
No.
or other?
There's actually parameters inside of our Flock dashboard where you can, we have not received a request to share with ICE. All of the requests we've received have been from police departments and other sheriff's offices in rural Missouri and other states, but we do not share with them, no.
But in any event, this would be a snapshot mostly of a license plate of a car on a public street or maybe a private place of public accommodation, such as the parking lot of Deerberg's.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chief?
Let me set it up here. Good evening. My report won't be as dynamic as the police department's. They're doing very good work, but this is just our monthly update. Probably most of interest is our personnel update. So we are down one firefighter paramedic right now. One of our newest folks that we hired back in April decided to depart us and go to another municipality in the north end of the county. Despite my best efforts to talk him out of it, he decided he wanted to go to Ferguson, so there you go. He does have a connection with that when he was working on Christian Ambulance. That's where he was stationed at Ferguson. So they had a need for personnel, and they had a special recruitment process, and he was successful in that. Fast forward, we do have our current opening listed as of August 13th on the website. That closes on September 15th. We will initiate the first round of written testing Friday afternoon, September 18th, and Saturday morning, September 19th. After that, once we receive the grades back, we decide what where the cut line is, and then invite those folks back for an interview and a medical practical. So we're really hoping to get this done by the second or third week of October. We're fast tracking this. That will create an eligibility list for a year, so we know we have at least one retirement in January, so we'll be able to just pull from a list on that, and potentially another one sometime in 27 maybe. But this person, both of these guys are eligible, so they could go at any time. So we have plans for that. Our long-term folks, Lieutenant Chavez and firefighter paramedic Ivaldi, continue to progress. They're scheduled to come back. I think Darren is sometime in December, and Tim may be the latter part of October. So they're making good progress. Vehicle updates. So our 2002 Pierce truck that went out on Gov Deals, that actually was picked up on August the 21st. The person flew in from New Jersey, went over the truck, and it was a 501c3. It's the Engine 911 Fund. So they are primarily a Hispanic firefighters group that supports fire departments in the country of Ecuador. So he took our truck and was going to drive it to New Jersey for loading onto a container ship to be shipped down to Ecuador. So once it left the parking lot, see you later. He was confident. They were very happy to get the truck. It's probably in better shape than some of the equipment they get. So he said they'll be able to put it to a very good use. So good for them. The 2014 Pierce that is currently the reserve, we are still awaiting the radiator for that. We thought the repair cost was going to be a little high on the initial quote, and we worked through Public Works to identify another vendor that would be able to do the repair for a little bit less money. Turns out that McQueen, the original vendor, is the one that is capable of doing it for the cost. So the truck has to be lifted up, so most of these other places don't have a lift that will take a commercial truck like that. So once the radiator comes in, it should be out of service for a couple of days. And then the UTV, that's going in for its annual scheduled maintenance based off of hours of use. So this is a good time of the year for it because we have Brentwood days coming up and then winter time. So it's out and about on calls. So looking good for that. The exciting portion of this report is the training update. So as you know, we've had some interest in outside agencies using the training center. City of Shrewsbury has an IGA signed and enforced. I'll be presenting one next month for you from Webster Groves as well. It'll look very similar to that. The cool part about this is that our police department was one of the only police agencies that was interested in participating in the training tower when we were building it. I was told all the other police departments like, yeah, no, we don't need anything like that. So kudos to Major Sullivan and Simpson. They stayed on this, so since April they've been trying to identify places to have training stuff. They've been partnering with us, so we were finally able to get that to happen. And they're not being charged for it because we are an owner city of that. So, and because most of their scenarios and evolutions are going to be in the nighttime, there's nobody using it then. So they have several dates scheduled for next month and in October. So I fully anticipate, like, once word gets out that PD is able to use this, the floodgates may open. But again, some of these other folks are going to have to go through the process that the non-owner agencies have to go through. So there may be some delays with it, but eventually it should probably come to us, but I would ask that the police department field those requests as they come in. And then we can take care of it from there. So again, partnership, you build it, they will come. So we're in very good shape with that. Last one on the report is the structure fire on High School Drive on July 25th. So that was an afternoon fire. Essentially, the gentleman had some issues with the vehicle in his garage, knew that it was leaking some kind of fluid, and he was going to go start the car and drive it around the block to see if he could figure out where the leak was coming from. So once he turned the car on, then it caught on fire. So he immediately jumped out of the car, out of the garage, called 911, and after a couple of minutes, we get on the scene. The garage is fully involved, car inside as well. The car was a total loss. The garage, for the most part, is just the roof. The walls were made out of concrete block, so it did a very good job of holding the heat and channeling it to the rear of the house. So we had some melted siding on the rear of the house. So for a fully involved garage with a car inside, the actual estimated fire loss is a lot less than the previous structure fire we had this year. So building construction on that one absolutely did help. Because of the year and the make of the car, its blue book value was a little less, but no injuries reported, and I believe I think they're already starting to rebuild the garage. So that one turned out pretty well. That one turned out pretty well for being 12:15 in the afternoon on a Saturday. So that's the fire department report for the month of July. More than happy to field any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Nope. Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate it.
Thank
very
you.
much. Dan?
Just have a few different updates here. The typical one here, Manchester Road streetlights. We're actually a little bit closer to finishing that one up. I know that Ameren was out today. The cabinet that's there on the north side of Manchester, east of Dorothy, has to be de-energized for our electrician to go in and replace it. So cabinet's in his yard. Ameren was out today, so I'm sure that they'll notify him when it's ready, and then he can just pop that new one on and wire everything up. The other two street lights that were damaged are done. So there was one by the self-storage, and then the other was at the Rock Church. So those two are done. The cabinet, once it's done, that should be it, hopefully for a little bit. Switching gears to McKnight Road, the push button failed to work on the Brentwood unit side. That was back in July. They ordered one for us, and it's expected to ship next week. As soon as it does, we'll put that in, retest everything, call them up. They can remote in using the software to see if everything's working. But when you go up to it, it doesn't depress. The spring mechanism or something's broken in it. So they said,
Isn't there a recognition that
there is, and that's not working either. So they said they would just ship both. And they're like, well, if you put in the push button, it should get the other thing started again, the radar unit. And if it doesn't, you'll have the new radar unit, just swap them out. So we're not waiting again.
Okay.
So we'll have to get a bucket truck when we do that if we have to do anything high up. The push button's low enough. And then the solar streetlights, the company that I'd originally thought would help us with the post-top Colonial does not have that except in AC power. I don't want AC power. I did actually find another company called Green Shine. They sell a Colonial post-top. The difference with it is it's more like the one with York Village, except it's square. It's not round, but it's square in shape, but it does have the vertical post as your collector for solar. So I think it looks closer to that. I told him to give me a quote. I've got a brochure. I can put that in the weekly report, but whenever I get the quote, I'll be able to figure out, is it more or less than what we paid for the other ones? But it does look closer. It's just not round, it's square, but I don't think that matters to me much. The color would be black. It's a anodized aluminum and some of it's fiberglass. But it says it's got a 5-year warranty on the battery and the workings, the controllers and all that, so. And that's it.
Questions?
Got a question about the cabinets and lights along Manchester that have been damaged. Do we anticipate that those are in a placement that may draw more vehicle conflicts with it? And would we need to consider, if they are, would we need to consider some bollards or something to protect them from getting hit by a certain direction?
Yeah, because of the lights that were hit, people went physically off the road, and I can't predict where they would leave the road.
But they were off the road because they were maybe turning into,
The Rock Church, I have no idea, other than maybe the person had a medical episode
Okay.
or something. I have no idea. I just know that, like,
But the
they're
one
in
by
road,
Dorothy,
then they're
that-
off the road, they hit a light, they shear it. The cabinet's an unusual one, but I know that was like somebody spun out during the winter time
right.
and, you know, hit that. Of course, it can't hit like a stop sign or something I could easily replace.
Right, yeah.
Because the only other thing I thought was maybe we would do not just a bollard, but like a collar around it, just so if you hit it from any direction, it's a little bit wider.
Just knowing
shock
how
absorber.
long it took us to actually, it's been what? How long has it been since it was damaged and we
Oh
actually?
gosh, yeah, it was
Year and
last winter. Yeah, it's
over a year?
almost yeah, coming up on a year.
You know, if this happens regularly, we're gonna have to end up going through this process again. So I don't know, thinking through the potential of, and it's not
We'll
just
give it
as,
some thought.
as we think about budgeting or
Questions? I just have one. I got a phone call from a resident on Pine, 8918 Pine. Said there were 2 cones that were left by the streets department, or that left by the public works department after a curb was rebuilt. Would you be willing to just ask somebody to, if?
Yeah, what was the
if-
address?
if-
9918?
8918.
8918. Okay.
And I talked to folks in the department, and they said there might still be work that's being done there, and that may be why they were left behind. But she was saying that, no, the work's been done months ago.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, we finished there because we're on Sonora right now doing
Okay.
curbs. So they're a block over. They should be able to just grab them tomorrow.
Okay, I just passed that along. I got that phone call just today, as a matter of fact, so,
Okay.
thank you very much. Okay, so the next item is our consent agenda, number 7. It contains the minutes from our meeting July 22nd, 2026. By review of it, anybody have any changes they want to make, additions, redactions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to, are we accepting, are we approving the consent agenda? We approve the minutes, or we just accept them? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, which contains the minutes?
so moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gold.
Yes.
Gould. Alderwoman Harder. Alderman Plucker.
Here and yes, for me too. Thank you very much, Octavia. We have no old business. We have some new business here. The first is no parking with regard to the intersection of Litzinger Road and Mary. Is, yeah, I figured maybe. Okay.
This was brought up a few meetings ago. So the issue is at times people have parked near that intersection of Litzinger and Mary. Primarily, I've always seen it on the Litzinger side, not the Mary side. So this, if approved, this legislation would prevent people from parking within 20 feet of that intersection on the Litzinger side. So basically, a full car length, most car lengths, wouldn't fit anymore. We would paint that yellow and put up signage saying no parking from here to corner. So,
I would also, there are times when people are on the Mary side, and there have been times when even our Parks Department, when they're mowing, they'll park actually on the, I would say, the east side of Mary, which makes it really difficult to maneuver around. So not that we need to be on the east side, but I do think carrying that around 20 feet onto Mary side would be what I would recommend. So 20 feet on the Litzinger side and 20 feet on the Mary side, on the west side of Mary. And the post office, a lot of times will park on Mary in that zone too, and if they're close enough, it makes it, that 90 degree is real tough with, especially with the access to the trail system. You get a lot of people walking and some close calls.
Okay, any other? Can I get a motion to forward this bill onto the full Board of Aldermen for
So moved.
consideration and approval?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Pluska.
Yes. Thank you. Our last item on the new business concerns our right turns on red, which is prohibited in some places, but there's not, the goal is to get the signage to match the ordinance?
Yeah, the legislation's old because it makes reference to certain areas of Highway 40, I-64 that don't exist, and I don't know how many years ago that was redone.
Right.
We originally looked at right here at Brentwood Boulevard in Eulalie, but then as I was looking, I was like, well, why does it have these other references? And I was like, well, if we're gonna, really fix this, we may as well fix the ones that don't belong here anymore. So I prepared something, sent it to the city attorney, and what this would do is it would remove the sections that are no longer, or the references that are no longer needed. So like Hanley Road southbound onto Eager Road, that's totally been redone for, I don't know how long, at least 15 years maybe. Highway 40 eastbound off-ramp onto Eager Road, Highway 40 eastbound off-ramp onto Hanley Road. I remember those from past experience, but those don't exist anymore, so that would remove that text from the current code, and then only leave in what's still needed. And then I've reached out to the county, and we need to put up signs for the no right on red here. The one at White is fine, it's on the Starbucks side, so that's the picture that's in the memo. You can barely see it, that it's circled, but it says no right on red. Just want to make sure that these aren't our signals, but we do need them to post that on there so that then it can be enforced.
Questions from the committee? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion to forward this bill onto the full Board of Aldermen for consideration and approval?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Octavia. And our last item before adjournment is citizen comments. Anybody in this room, anybody online has the ability at this point to address this committee on any issue of public safety. You are given up to 3 minutes. Please identify with your name and address. Not online. And there's nobody here, so I am going to close citizen comments, and seeing no further items on this agenda, this meeting is adjourned.